live.
We are
Cool.
live. Okay.
Cool. All right. I sent Nancy the info, so
Yep,
we're
we are
good to go.
broadcasting on YouTube.
All
Oh,
right. Yeah, there we go. I see something. Yep.
yeah. I just checked it and it was running good. And with luck, at 5 minutes before the hour, I won't drop out.
Okay.
You know how every Sunday at 3 o'clock they shut my internet off?
Oh man, is that
that
what they do?
we don't they don't know, but they finally got to the point where they said it could be a line issue. I go, really? You think?
Oh man.
Duh. You know.
So Nancy should be with us in about 10 minutes, and this
Okay.
is the scoop. She is a Republican activist who is working on the recalled Governor Polis.
Okay.
And I think it was yesterday or the day before at a King Soopers parking lot here in Arvada, where where someone with someone who was a Trump hater
Right.
who had a T-shirt on that says "Make America Hate Again."
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he got irate and yeah, I yell at those dogs.
I did.
Pipe down.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
but yeah, so this guy attacked her and her staff that were working there, and I'm like going, man, these people are just going off the rails with the
Th-
hatred out there. And,
this country everywhere is getting like that, and that's the sad thing. I mean, look what
yeah,
happened this weekend. I mean, my God.
right. I know.
Not just. I mean, yesterday I
Oh,
got up and around, and I saw the thing about El Paso, and then I get up and around this morning to get ready for Mel's show, which got delayed because his guest isn't showing up.
yep.
So, and I see about Dayton, and I'm going, what is wrong with these people?
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
uh, I think a lot of it is, of course, the guy yesterday, they started putting up that, oh, he was bullied and all this stuff. It's, when we were kids, you went out in the back, out behind the school, and
Yeah,
yep,
you had a fight. You beat
yeah.
up the guy.
Actually, when I was in school, if our coaches caught us fighting, they took us inside. We put the boxing gloves and we wailed on each other till one of us quit.
Right.
That's what they dealt with it. You know,
Right.
me and another
Hmm.
guy got into it one time, and of course, this is before WWE, but this is when wrestling was really popular back in the old days when they really did stuff.
Right.
We had a grudge match, and it was pro rules. I mean, uh,
Wow.
he would bite my hair. My hair was kind of long, so he could bite it and pull on it, but he had his head shaved like this, and I didn't have, so I just bit his ear. But I mean, it
You
was
did Mike
at the
Tyson.
end. At the end, we got up, we shook hands, we walked out, and that was the end of the.
There you go. Well, when I was a kid, we all we did is we went home and we either snuck into the parents' liquor cabinet or we got stoned. We didn't go shoot up the school,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
we weren't on medication either.
no, we didn't have to do Ritalin and all that stuff, and
Yeah,
I think a lot of this stems from, you know, I hate to say it, but the feminists, and we're on the political show, so
yeah,
I can say
yeah.
some of this,
Go
but
ahead.
the feminist and the LGBTQDRF, whoever else
Yeah,
initials they've added
XYZ.
to it,
Yep.
the confused, uh, they're the ones that they're taking away the manhood of America.
Right.
I saw something the other day that let's see, Mario Lopez is in trouble because he mentioned that
Right. I
a
heard that.
3-year-old shouldn't decide their own sexuality.
Uh,
I agree. That's just
mhm. right.
ridiculous.
But he's
It's,
such a hater. He's
yeah,
making up his
I
mind for him.
when did kids take over the world? That's the problem. We allowed the kids to start taking over the world.
Yep. Now here's the deal. Little kids, they like to they're changing their minds all the time. One day they might want to play with the Barbie, and then next week they might be doing GI Joe, or they'll want to be a fireman. I mean, it's ever changing with kids. Kids change their interests. Like one week it'll be dinosaurs. They're into dinosaurs.
Yeah,
The next week they're into the Avengers and
yeah,
stuff like that. I mean,
right. Yeah, and for people to for this society to think that they can you know allow allow the kids to make their decision for them.
right,
I mean, just we've given the we've given the keys to the inmate of the insane asylum.
right, that's right. Hmm.
It's just
Yeah, it's crazy.
every day, and I'll get a lot of crap off of this one, but
No.
yeah, well, I won't get any more than usual. But
Yeah,
this, I mean, first off, let me say my hearts and prayers are with the people both in El Paso and Dayton.
right.
That is a tragedy. President Trump called it what it was. It's cowardice.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm going to shoot my dogs, but don't think I'm an animal hater, okay? Uh, they're interrupting my show. But with that set aside, we've had so many of these in the last last year or so
Right.
that I honestly wonder if it's not, and this conspiracy thinking, I know, but I really think that it's a movement or an underground movement or a part of the far left that's either indoctrinating these people in some thought or something. They can, I just can't believe that, especially anybody who would follow Donald Trump would go out and do something like this, thinking this is what he would want. I
Right.
mean, surely they're smarter than that. Maybe not, but
Hmm.
I do know that the guy yesterday, they did mention, one of the news channels mentioned that they found of course, he was anti South American, the guy today, I don't know. Uh, oh, Drone Life RC says a lot
Oh,
of people
cool.
are saying that. All right, welcome.
Hmm.
But uh, they also said that they found in some of his stuff not only white supremacists, but they found Islamic fundamentalist stuff. I mean, those two don't necessarily go together.
No.
And that makes me start thinking that this is a lot. And I've said this all along. I've said this since the last presidency. There is a network of people, usually rich, and that are
George
working
Soros.
behind this. Yeah, exactly.
Tom
He's
Steyer.
yeah, and they're working behind the scenes. It's because they got so much money. They do not care about this country. They don't care about one
No.
side or the other. Let's
No.
just destroy it, because that gives them, they've already got the money. So when our economy falls, when our government falls, they can step in because they've got money,
Yeah, they'll still have the money,
Right.
and these are people they feel threatened by people who make money
Yeah.
because they think they're taking away
From their
something
income.
from
Yeah.
them. They want everything for themselves. They want to be like the new nobility, where we've got the money and our family, we're going to take care of everything.
But
So,
one of the problems we've been having over the last 20 years or so, since
right.
2000, almost 20, well, coming up on 20 years. And actually before that, the last time the Republicans stood up for themselves was in 1994,
Right. Hmm.
with Newt Gingrich and all of that
Yeah.
bunch, the contract with
Yeah.
America. That was,
Right. And then they called it racist then. And then that's when the liberals and the media really start going on them. And they kind of were taken aback, and they, kind of, pulled back from that.
Right. It's because, and Drone Life RC is right. It says, it seems like within 10 minutes they're finding this stuff. And, half of it is false or planted to make it seem worse. And,
Right.
of course, we all know the news media does that. And you and I have talked about this at length about the news media, and
Right.
that's the fact that whenever there's a coup or a revolution in a country or something like that, the first thing they do is take over the broadcast
Right.
because they can control the narrative. Well, they did that after 94. They went in and started taking over the different positions of CBS, NBC.
Right.
At one time, 30 years ago or however long it was that it started, the CNN was actually some place where you could actually get some decent news. I mean, it was still left leaning, but it wasn't ridiculous. It was they had actual news,
Right.
And when they started going further and further to the left, that's when the Fox News channel came up to be balanced. And,
Right.
even though they're owned by a liberal, they still, he was smart. He was a businessman. And as far as he's concerned, this is all business. And this was something he was getting a lot. He could see a need for as a businessman. And so he provided the service as a businessman. He didn't really care about his content. He just wanted to make some money. And he's been very successful at that,
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Drone Life RC. A lot of it is, they find all kinds of evidence and info on the person, but 50 years later, we don't know who really killed JFK. Yeah. Well, as you
Lee
know,
Harvey Oswald.
yeah. Well, as you know, I announced Friday that I was running for the president on the Indian Republican ticket.
Okay.
The Indian
Okay.
Republican.
Okay.
I want to cover everybody. And of course, I stand for nothing, but I won't stand for anything.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. My policies are I'm going to give everybody everything for free.
Right.
But I'm going to raise taxes in order to do that. But I'm going to make sure that everybody, you have to work to pay the taxes to get your free stuff. So that's the way that'll work. And then when that economy fails, I'll take everything away, but I will drop taxes.
There you go. But you'll do things different. You'll kiss hands and shake babies.
Yeah. And I'm an honest politician. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you people. I am not above taking, corporate backing, special interest groups. I could use the money, bring it on.
Yeah, there you go.
But I'm honest about it. That's something you won't find in most politicians. I'm being honest about it. But I do not like cigars, nor will they be used in the White House. My wife told me that.
So, did you watch any of the debate this week?
No, I just could not.
I know that's just 3 hours of my life. I just can't seem to.
Yeah.
I'll just say, let someone else watch it and give their critique. And then, I mean, these people, they're anti-American. They're anti-corporation. They want to go after the rich. And it's like, how do you think this country was built on? You have to have people with capital to build things so that we can have this great standard of living.
Look at the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, Russia. That was under the Bolshevik Revolution, they became a third world country.
Yep.
They were a leader in industry and everything up until communism took over. And once that happened, they it just
Well, they stole everything.
They stole everything,
They
and
stole
only
all the
contributed to it.
intellectual rights.
Hold on.
Oh, okay. It sounds like is that Greg? Greg or Mel? Yeah. So Ford came in and they opened a plant in the Soviet Union, thinking, "Oh yeah, we'll make some money this way." Well, they made a little bit of money at first, and then the Russians decided, we don't need you anymore. We'll just keep all this equipment and we'll uh, we'll build your cars and trucks ourselves. So, and I mean, look at the atomic bomb. That was all stolen secrets, how they built the atomic bomb. And what else did they steal?
Yeah, that was my co-host for my show, who I co-host tonight. God,
Right.
and he goes, "Oh yeah," he's trying to get ready for his show, and he
Right.
needed something that I have, so I'm going to send it to him. It's just
Okay, I'm sending a message to Nancy that we are live now.
okay. Yeah.
So hopefully she'll. Okay. Just click on the link and I'll just type in. Just
Where is
click
that?
on the link.
Okay.
And Nancy's been a candidate for state house, and she recently ran for city council of Lakewood.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Yep. So she's, I met her several years ago, so that's how I know her. And then when I saw her name pop up about this Trump hater that assaulted some people, I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, they've just gotten it's just gotten ridiculous. I can't
Yeah.
find this file. Anyways, I can find it. He's got time. But uh oh, I don't have, I'm sitting here looking, and I have my chat set up, but I'm on live chat, not top chat.
Oh, there you go.
I don't care who president, Democrat or Republican, woman, man, black or white, as long as they are the right one for the job. And yeah, to an extent, yeah. I just can't support a Democrat who would hang on.
All right. Well, I'm going to put my 2 cents in while Lloyd is busy. Is I'm a believer of party.
I'll be right back, Art.
All right, no problem. I'll carry the show like I usually do. That party trumps person, because you might vote for a Democrat who you think is a pretty, moderate or conservative on many issues, but you are voting for the coalition because you will get the party that will, serve, who will, like for now, like the Republicans control the Senate, so they control all the committee assignments. Democrats control the House, they control all the committee assignments. Can you imagine Maxine Waters is on the banking uh, regulation board? I mean, a person who has no business being anywhere near a bank is her. She should not be on. Uh, so this is why it's important to vote Republican, because whoever is in power is going to serve that coalition. That party is going to control all the committee assignments, and that's the important thing.
Okay. Sorry about that.
All right. I was explaining why party trumps person, where uh, that party, whoever's got the majority, will control all the committee assignments, either in the House or in the Senate. So
Yeah,
that's why that's important.
yeah. It's important because the well, even the Democrats right now, there's a lot of the old school Democrats that are having a problem with some of these new young radicals that have come in because they're socialist. And
Yeah.
if unless you're our age or say somebody who was old, mature enough to understand what was going on in
Hmm.
the 80s when at the end of the 80s, way before he was elected because he wasn't in bed with anyone. And that's it, you know. Uh, I,
Well,
boy, them dogs are going nuts today. They've been like this for 2 days. I apologize, but uh, it,
that's okay. I've had dogs. They do the same thing to me,
yeah,
but that was way before I got into doing something like this live
yeah,
broadcast.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's not too professional of me to have my dogs in the background barking, but yeah, the new socialist movement in the democratic socialist movement
Right.
is there's a lot of the old guys that aren't set. It's not setting well with them. They're suddenly starting to say, uh, they're starting to rethink this. And
Right.
I mean, the problem is that the Republicans have not had anything strong in the way of a platform or a presentation or what they stand for in so
Hmm.
long that nobody, because everything they've done, they've always just bailed instead of standing behind what they believe. They capitulated, you know.
Hey, Lloyd,
Yeah.
our guest is here, so let's bring her on
Oh, okay.
to add to the stream. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Nancy Polazzi.
Hello.
Let's get. Yeah, she's our Republican activist who recently had a run-in with a Trump hater. And this was what at the 40th and Kipling. Am I correct?
Yes, it was over by it was at the Wheat Ridge Rec Center.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Mhm.
So, without further ado, I will let Nancy explain the whole thing. Carry on.
Well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure being on your show here. I am out there doing Polis recall signings all over Jefferson County. I'm the director out here, trying to get everybody together. And last Wednesday was a new signing area there at the Wheat Ridge Rec Center.
Hmm.
So I had another volunteer with me, and actually two volunteers. One was out on the street having the sign and getting people in, and we were at a table there just outside of the rec center.
Right.
So about 15 minutes into the signings, this gentleman comes and starts making all kinds of noise,
Oh boy.
screaming anti-Trump things, dressed in all black with a black T-shirt saying "Make America Hate Again," and just spewing all of that good stuff that we're hearing all over the place. So it
Oh,
was pretty bad. It went on for about a half an hour,
right.
and we never really encouraged him. We never said anything to him. He just was doing his thing.
Right.
Then three kids, I have to call them kids, they're probably in their early 20s, showed up. They were from the Progress Now group.
Oh boy.
And so the four of them were feeding each other and just saying all kinds of things. So, it was anti-Trump, you're destroying our state, just and yelling at our signers. And one of our signers, it was a little old lady, bless her heart, she even tried to engage with them and even said a prayer for them. But, that just, I had to
That
kind of
just
get in the middle and say, okay, thank you, but we got to go because it wouldn't stop.
right. Luckily, I wasn't there because I probably would have jumped in. I would just say, "Hey, come on." I would at first. been nice and say, "Come down, let's take it over
Well, I
there."
did. Yeah.
And oh, that's good. Otherwise, I would have. It would have been a brawl. I would have. It would have come to blows if I wouldn't. I wouldn't have the patience to do this. But oh,
Yeah, I don't see how you can possibly do this because, I mean, I grew up in Colorado. I live in Oklahoma now, and I grew up right over there by where Arthur lives. Grew up in Westminster,
Hmm.
and she there you stated something that they'd said that they are destroying the state. No, I remember what the state was like when I lived there. It has
Hmm.
been destroyed since I left. I left at 18, and I've been back to visit a couple of times, but I left when I went into the military
Hmm.
and went into the Air Force. And it's no. And that's why I'm on this show. Even though I'm from Oklahoma, I still support my friends and family that still live in Colorado,
Right.
and it's just they just do not remember what. Well, most of them weren't even born because I left
Right.
in 1974.
Mm.
So that's like, and left. I left Denver in 1970, and so, but I'd lived there since 1957. So I grew up in that neighborhood and left when we moved. But then I left to join the service in 74, and that was it's been such a change that you know the state has been destroyed from my point of view. Look on the outside looking in, has been destroyed by these uh, left-wing ideologists, and
Hmm.
so I mean it's they just have no clue what they're talking about.
No, they don't, unfortunately. I was born in the 60s, and I'm a native here in Lakewood, and it's just the amount of change and the disrespect that these youth have these days is just something else.
mhm.
So,
Yeah.
did you want me to continue on with the little story in terms of
Yeah,
that, or?
go ahead, carry on.
Okay. So, that went on for quite a while, and then that one of the gentlemen from the Progress Now group took him over this. Well, it was almost an Antifa type of thing. It really was.
Oh boy.
And he went out to the parking lot, talked to him, and then they came back and started yelling and screaming again, some more things, and then he left. Well, in that process, I went and took some pictures of the car he drove up in and things to that nature. And about 20 minutes later, um, the kids were still there. The three from Progress Now were still there and doing their thing. And we had lots of signers, lots and lots of signers. In fact, we
Good,
probably had more
good.
signers because of that. um, and all of a sudden, this gentleman came lunging from behind the table and jumped over the table and grabbed one of the petitions that was on the table and started running. And my volunteer was in a dress and high heels and starts running after him.
Oh boy. Wow,
So
that's
you can
dedication.
imagine the scene in terms of this happening. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm calling the police, and so we get up there, and she's screaming, he stole something from me, he stole something from me. And um, a wonderful man stopped his car in the middle of the road and tackled the guy.
Oh,
And he's
cool.
the only one that got hurt. He scraped his knee up pretty good, but we had a good man who helped us take care of that. So we got the petition back. It's all ripped up and the clipboard was busted up.
Oh
But
boy.
the gentleman did get away. But I got some pictures in all of this.
Oh
So
boy. Is that the only recall you're working on? You're not working on the Brittany Pedersen
yes,
recall?
yes, and
Re-
I am. So this is that area is just the edge of Senate 22, which is now currently held by Senator Brittany Pedersen.
Right.
And so where my signings are within her district is where I am seeing all the progress now. Her husband is Progress Now here in Colorado.
Yeah, that's
So
right. I just saw
yeah,
a thing on Facebook about her husband. I'm like, going, and she's not using his last name. She's using her maiden name. And
Right.
I'm like, oh boy, you must be really proud of your husband that you're not taking his name.
Yeah. Well, they just got married last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's some other senator that's being recalled, and I don't
Yes,
recall his.
Senator Lee out of El Paso.
Right, right,
And
right.
we're seeing some of the progress now, or some people that are fighting that as well
Uh-huh.
down there in El Paso.
Right.
I'm not familiar about it, but I do hear there are protesters and people out there.
Right. And Pedersen, she's the one that defeated Tim Neville, right?
No, so that was an open seat. Senator Andy Kerr held it, and so it was
Right.
an open seat. And the Republican that was running against her was Tony Sanchez.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Tammy Story, she's the one that beat Tim Neville.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, she's the one that
Okay.
beat. Yeah.
All right. So if both of these are recalled, then the Senate flips back to the Republican, which would be good.
That
In one
possibility is there.
way, then we could slow down a lot of the garbage that's going through the assembly. If we're successful in recalling Polis, that would do a lot to really slow down a lot of the garbage. And my concern is with redistricting and reapportionment, how that's going to fall. And you know, I I voted for the amendment, or the thing that changes the way we do that. I think it's not going to change anything. I think the Democrats already figured a way how to do an end around this. So I'm just worried that the state Supreme Court is still going to rule on it, even though it says they have no business. It's still going to go to courts, and we'll
Right.
still get Democrat maps. I'm just not optimistic there.
Yeah, I'm not either. I mean, we're having meetings about that and trying to figure it out and trying to be proactive about it. But
Mhm.
I agree with you completely.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Nancy, I want to thank you for coming on, and you have a pleasant day, and I wish you
Yeah.
well on your recall.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah. And
appreciate that. And thank you for letting me be on. And everybody get out there and sign these petitions. I really need them for Brittany Pedersen. We gotta get her out.
All right.
you all be safe out there, you know.
Thank you. Thank you. We
Yeah.
will. We're gonna start doing more security work and things to that nature as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
this youth nowadays has no clue what they're doing. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
They don't understand what they're doing. Oh, I see Rodney Bell is here.
Yeah.
And
Welcome, Rodney.
do I see Chris Hope came in? Or maybe that's Drone
There
Life
we go.
RT. Yeah.
No, let's see.
Yeah, it's Rodney. Okay. But yeah, this youth has no clue what they're doing, what they stand for. They're, in my opinion, they're being guided by misguided adults.
Yep,
And
that's right.
they probably are, I hate to say it, but living in their parents' basement,
Yep.
and they're what we've done to this youth, and I say we because we're the adults, we're the ones who started this slide from
Right.
our age group of people, and we even though I was in the military and was serving my country back in a time when nobody wanted us to,
Right.
it's mine and your generation that has caused this. It's the hippies, it's that whole
Mhm.
peace, love, and all of that stuff that started this, and
Mhm.
that's You know, if they're not careful, that eventually things will get so bad that it's going to swing the other way, and they're going to find out what it was like under McCarthy, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because McCarthy was no better as far as I mean, he understood that, and he proved there was a lot of there was communism in this country, and we were fighting communism at that time, as after World War. You know, the thing is the communists were our
They were our
allies,
allies.
you know,
Yeah.
but man, there's a lot of different ways that could have gone, and
Yeah.
uh,
That's true.
and the thing was is they'd made an agreement with Germany, you know, before they became our ally. So it's like, you know, I don't know. It's just we've created a mess with these young people, and somebody, you know, these kids need to be taken out behind a woodshed and have their butts paddled. Is what they
Yeah,
need.
that
You know.
I agree with you on that, and it all comes back to one thing: education. And
Yeah.
where are they getting these ideas? They're getting these ideas from our educators,
Yeah.
especially the ones that have come through in the last 10 or 20 years. Now they're teaching these kids to, be violent and not to be tolerant and not to, work with people that you don't agree with. It,
Yeah. And well, yeah, they are. You know, it's the well, we've done a lot. We've dumbed down America.
yep,
You know, uh, if you don't know history, you cannot keep from repeating history.
that's
And
right.
there's so many mistakes that happened, and uh, they're saying that they want a democratic socialist group like they have in you know, from what I picked up from the debates the other day, that they want Rodney's writing, putting up the peace sign and all that. And then he said, wish he could find some daisies.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But Rodney, you're a character. Anyways, but these
Got a plug.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, I've mine is sitting in there, and I forgot to fill it up. I just grabbed a bottle of water and added some Tang to it. You know,
Okay.
Tang is the, you know, astronauts use this stuff.
Astronauts drink that.
Yes,
Hey,
yes, they
and you
do.
know what? They pee in a bag too.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, yeah. We digress really badly.
All right.
It just went. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you were saying that
Oh,
we're
they're one.
repeating ourselves. If you don't learn from history, you're going to repeat it.
Right.
And that's why I keep plugging this history channel that I've been
Yeah.
watching. Time Goes, and they've got a program called World War II Day by Day, which gives you a chronological view of what's going on in the war. And right now, yesterday, they just did August 3rd, 1940. So, and this is going to, each week we're going to have that week's what happened in the war,
Right.
not only in Europe, but in Asia and what's going on in the United States and political and all that stuff. And it's very fascinating. I'm learning more and more stuff watching that because when I'm a history buff,
Yeah. So am
learned
I.
about what was going on in China during the war. All I knew is the Japanese were, trying to take chunks of territory of China. They controlled Manchuria and
Right.
parts
Yeah.
of China because of their natural resources there.
Right. Right.
So and I didn't know about. There were many factions in the Chinese government. You had Mao Zedong and Ken Kai-shek,
Chiang Kai Shek. Yeah.
and then there was another guy. His name is Wei, and they all worked together to fight the Japanese. And then you had to you're learning about the intrigue in that alliance going there, and how
Right. And
Chiang
not only,
Kai-shek finally took control, and he was the dictator of China.
yeah, and well, not only that, during the precursor to World War II, we had expats that were going over there and flying for the Chinese Air Force. I actually had one of my weapons instructors when I was going through weapons training school, or what the Army calls AIT, Advanced Infantry, while I was going through weapons training.
Right.
And one of our instructors was actually a pilot who had flown with the Chinese Air Force during
Yeah.
World War II. Yeah.
Mhm.
And man, I've been I have been blessed in my life to have met people that were there. Of course, my dad, my uncles. One of my uncles was at Bataan. He was at the Fall of Corregidor. He was a survivor of the Death March. Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
And so, matter of fact, the New Mexico National Guard had one of the predominant amount that in Texas had the predominant amount of people that went to Bataan.
Wow.
And there's a theater down there in the New Mexico National Guard memorial site, and
Right.
they have a walk-through museum and all this. It tells everything that they did in both the European, which is where my dad was at. He
Right.
fought in Europe and Africa. He chased Rommel all over the desert, and then he was in Italy, and that's where he was wounded.
Right.
And but they put a theater up there where you can go in and sit down and watch documentaries, and they have special presentations there. And the theater is named after my uncle.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's the
Great.
Mendenhall Audiovisual Center, and
Okay.
it's But so I was blessed in being able to talk to these people that were there firsthand.
Right.
And I had a high school or a junior high school teacher that was he was a flight instructor, and
Mm.
we called him Major because, or we called him Colonel because he was a light colonel. And uh, this was in a day when Vietnam was going on. We
Right.
had respect for our teachers, and if they had a rank, we called them by it.
Right.
Our
Mhm.
parents had been either in Korea or World War II.
Right.
Or
Yep.
so I got to learn a lot of that history. So that's where I learned
Mhm.
about the Chinese Air Force was actually, uh, Pappy Boyington. That's where
Yeah,
he
and I
came
was
out.
just gonna say that. Yeah, he was part of that, the Flying Tigers,
Flying
and
Tigers. That's where they came from.
then when we got into the war in the Pacific, he was transferred to the Marines, and that's when he started flying Corsairs.
Right.
Hmm.
And the Flying Tigers eventually ended up at England Air Force Base in Alexandria, Louisiana.
Wow.
And they were flying, believe it or not, they were still flying Corsairs, but they were flying the Corsair 2,
Oh, okay.
which was the A7.
Right. Was that the Marines or was that the Navy?
Actually, it ended up becoming the Air Force.
Oh, okay.
Because once they were Marines and Marines, they're Navy aviators.
Right.
But they disbanded after World War II. They disbanded the Flying Tigers, and then they, in 1947, the Army Air Corps broke off from the Army.
Yeah, and that became the Air Force. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and picked up a lot of the Navy pilots because Navy shifted a lot of their stuff around. They picked up a lot of Navy pilots that came out of that era and
Right.
came into the Air Force, and then they reactivated and the Flying Tigers, but they reactivated in the Air Force.
Oh, okay.
And they took on the name because when they it's just later on and getting towards in the Vietnam era is when they really pulled them back and or brought them back in, and that's when
Right.
they brought in the A7 and it was called the Corsair 2.
Right.
It was put out by or Voight Aeronautics,
Mhm.
and because it was a Corsair, they just were allowed to use the title of Flying Tigers,
Ah, okay.
and they became a group, and eventually they converted over to the A10, and that's where I ran into them because
Okay.
I had worked on both the A7s, and then I worked on the early A10s that the Air Force had. So
Okay.
I was able to meet up with a lot of those pilots, and some of their old guys were still, you know, had worked with some of the early pilots from
Mhm.
the Army Air Corps and the Navy and Marine pilots. So,
Well, you probably remember a pilot named Robin Olds. He was a general and he was a World War II pilot,
mhm.
flew in Korea, and was an ace in Vietnam.
Yes, yes,
Yep,
yes,
yep.
yeah,
He was one of the few World War II veterans to fight in all three wars there.
right. There weren't a lot of them that did that. There,
No,
you know, because World War II, they stood a good chance of getting shot down,
right,
and Korea, it was the first jet age war,
right.
and that changed the whole face of warfare.
Hmm.
And I still think, like a lot of people, that both Korea and Vietnam Korea was a test to see what the Chinese could throw out, and we were testing what we could defend with.
Right.
And then Vietnam was, it was a weapons test between the Russians and us, because the Russians back, which I never understood. Why did the Russians back the Vietnamese instead of the Chinese backing them?
Well, I think China and Russia had a schism there.
Right,
And the North Vietnamese, they were always had an adversarial thing with China. So when the Russians came in,
right, okay,
they sided with them. They figured, well, they've got more of the weapons that we need than the Chinese do,
right, right,
and so that's how that
yeah,
happened. The reason those wars were undeclared is, you got to remember we were at the age of the Cold War,
yeah,
and
yeah,
instead of having a world war, we just had proxy wars
right, right.
around the
Yeah,
world just to kind of, keep the balance
it
of
was
power
balance,
going.
counterbalance. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's how. Yeah, and Korea was one of the first tests. Well, actually, Germany was where the Berlin flight in '48.
right,
That was
right. The
our
Berlin
first.
Wall. Yeah,
Yeah,
the dropping of the Iron Curtain. Yeah,
yeah, that's where we were flying into Berlin and
yeah,
making sure that Berlin didn't become part of the East Germany. So it
right,
was
right.
parts of it were free and parts of it were in East Germany.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So, and the
And
reason,
these kids that are doing all this protesting stuff, they have no clue that there was an East and West Germany.
yeah,
Yeah, I
hmm,
bet 90% of them, if you ask where East Germany is at, and they couldn't tell you, where's East Berlin? Where's West Berlin? Do they
hmm,
know the difference? I doubt it, because they don't teach that in school anymore. They do not teach our history.
yep, they probably don't even know what Czechoslovakia is.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
we grew up on. There, it was one nation. Now it's
yeah,
two nations. There's the
right. Or
Czech Republic,
Yugoslavia, or
and
Yugoslavia.
yeah, Yugoslavia was after World War One was a conglomeration of Croats, Serbs, and Slovenes.
Yeah,
And right after World War One, it was controlled by an autocratic monarch. But they were. Here's another thing that I learned about was learning how that all they were able to keep it together and how all these different factions. Because before World War One, there weren't really any nation states in Europe. After World War One, you had all of these brand new nation states where you had people that were in those countries that were of different ethnic groups. Like in Austria, you had Germans there. Poland, you had Germans there. And it just kind of Yugoslavia is another place because you had all these different factions. You had your Croats, your Bosnia Bosnians and your Serbians and your Slovenes and Slavs, and trying to keep that together. Uh, that was a major task. And then you had the Ukraine, Belarus, and the Baltic countries that
Right.
they were all freed after World War I. But then when World War II just got started, all those countries got annexed by the Soviet Union.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, they came under that umbrella protection because it's either that or they were going to be taken over by the Nazis. I mean, you had the invasion of Poland, and that's what really kicked
Yeah.
part of that off. And so a lot of those countries over there, you know, they, like you said, they were annexed. And
Mhm.
yeah, and this is the thing. These kids today don't understand our history. What I was really going to say about the debates is these people, these progressives out there, they a couple of them mentioned they wanted us to be like the Netherlands, that have socialism and everything's free and all of that stuff, like they have over there, that type of socialism. The difference is, and is the type of socialism they want is Venezuelan
Yeah.
socialism,
Yeah.
and we see how well that
Yeah.
worked.
Mhm. Yeah, and
But,
plus what's going on in the Netherlands and in Scandinavia, where they dip their toe into socialism, have pulled away from socialism because they realize how they couldn't keep up with the spending that they would need.
yeah,
Well, the taxing, they'd have to tax the hell
well,
out of people, and not just the rich, but the middle class
yeah,
really got nailed real
yeah.
hard. And even people who were poor, they got taxed too because they had to make the revenue to sustain these entitlements.
Well, and that's I jokingly have said that part of my campaign is to give everybody everything for free, but I will have to tax everybody. I will raise the taxes by at least 300%
Hmm.
in order to pay for all this free stuff. But
Right,
then everybody will have to work to pay for, even the poor will
right,
have to, if nothing else, they can, you know, uh, we can have the poor that can't, say the poor and disabled, we can have them making trash bags,
yeah.
you
There
know,
you go.
sewing or, making them out of cloth because we want to be environmentally friendly. So we'll make them reusable trash bags. And then we can send the, the able-bodied poor out to gather up pop cans and stuff to help
Yeah.
build our aluminum supply. And I mean,
Hmm.
it's a great program,
Hmm.
Of course, it'll fail, and I know it
Right.
will. And
Hmm.
that's my point. I'll make it fail. I'll see it fail, and uh, uh, I'll see that fail, and then
Right.
what'll happen is, of course, everybody loves a tax cut, so I'll have massive tax cuts. People will love it. Of course, I'll have to take all the free stuff away.
There
You
you
know,
go.
so
There,
I figure I'm a win-win kind of guy.
Rodney
That's what
says
these
he.
idiots are think. I just caught that. He wants to be the Secretary of Treasury.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, I've already got Rick Halber, who's going to be my Secretary of Business Symmetry.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
the
Okay.
Secretary of BS.
Okay. Yeah. Can I
So,
be your propaganda minister?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's Secretary of. Let me think. What's that called? Uh,
I,
Secretary of Communications. Secretary of Communications and Reiterations.
oh,
Scare.
there you go. There you.
Scare. Yeah. Secretary of Scare. I
Well,
can't, but
yeah.
yeah, go on, go on. I've hogged enough of your show now.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's our education system. It's we need to have a overhaul, major overhaul in our education system to get back to teaching kids the fundamentals and history that's more balance, and we got to stop with all this indoctrination BS.
Well, that's it. We've got so much indoctrination. I didn't really do anything with my because I've been busy doing other stuff here lately with my Grumpy Scribes. But one of the things I always opened up with was reading this.
Right.
I got this for free, and I
I've got several.
Yeah,
lying
and
around
I got this one from Hillsdale College.
Hillsdale. And you know
Now,
where Hillsdale's located? It's in
No,
Michigan.
oh, it is Hillsdale, Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
says so on the address. So, but if you
Yep.
guys want one of these, go. And they're not sponsoring me or anybody else. I just think this is a great thing to have around.
And they
everybody.
have a really good newsletter called Imprimis, and it's free too.
Yes, yeah, they provide so much free education and
Right.
just there's so many things you can learn from them. But this is one of the things that I really am proud of because it's not just it's the Declaration of Independence as well as the Constitution. And
has all the amendments and
yeah, it has all the amendments, has the Bill of Rights, all the articles of the Constitution.
Right.
I mean,
and that was the other thing I was going to point on in the debates. Democrats hate the Constitution because they hate it because it limits their power.
Right.
And that's why they're doing this whole thing with the electoral college, where they want to get rid of the electoral college because they know that they will have a monopoly on who's going to be president, because who's going to be voting for the president.
Right.
New York, Illinois, and California who will be deciding who our next president's going to be.
Yeah. And I think this thing, the way they're doing those voting blocks and stuff, I have an idea, because I've heard, I can't remember where I heard it, that some of this stuff it turns out is going to be declared unconstitutional once it hits the Supreme Court, but it's going to have to go to the Supreme Court of the United States, and because it's taken away the power to vote by the individual,
right?
And we are not a
we're not
true
a democracy.
No,
we are a republic.
Republic, yes,
with democratic
republic. Yes.
Yep.
And people don't understand that because they did not, they don't teach that stuff. We used to have to go through civics classes,
Yeah. I had civics class, and that's how I learned about the 3 branches of government.
Right.
One
of the greatest teachers I ever had, her name was Mrs. Griffith. And I cannot remember the other 5th grade teacher's name, but she had been my 4th grade teacher, and then she converted to 5th grade the next year. But I was in the other class because I already had her. But one was Mrs. Griffith was a Republican, and this is when teachers could actually talk about their political points of view.
Right.
But she was a Republican, and the other one was a Democrat, and they were campaigning for said president, whoever was running them. And what they did is they allowed us to elect our own Congress, and we had joint meetings between the classes during civics and history class part of the class, because in 5th grade y'all were in the same class, unless I think we started going to I think we went to a math and or reading class, it was separate. We went to a different, and they categorized us. It's real simple. We took tests, and you either got into the exceptionally bright class or you got into the dummy class, like I did. I lived through it. I still suck at math, but I've learned ways to deal with it, and so I was in the dummy math class, but I learned so much that way. Because I didn't have to compete necessarily with the brightest, but it allowed me to to have a little, because there was fewer of us that were not as, so we had a lot of one-on-one, but
Yeah.
anyways, they set up these governments, and I learned so much about our government. And that's when we had that. This is over at Fairview Elementary. I don't think it's there anymore. It's over at
yeah.
Westminster.
Oh, yeah. Fairview is that over? Well, no, I'm thinking of, yeah, there's a Fairview school, but that's over in Golden now. That's off of McIntyre and.
Oh, no, this would be, let's see, 76 is the street I lived on. What's the next big cross street up there? There's 76th and 80th, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere about 80th over. It was west of Zuni by about 6 blocks.
Okay.
Because I went to Clear Lake Junior High, which Clear Lake I know isn't there. I think there's a park there.
Right.
And then I went to Fairview Elementary.
Uh-huh.
And that's, I learned so much there. I learned, that's when I got my love for politics and government and how it worked. And I stayed with it all these years because I had a 5th grade teacher that took the time, 2 5th grade teachers that took the time to explain to us what the election was about,
Yep.
And that's when I became, that's when and my parents were they were Democrats, but they were conservative. That was the funny thing.
It was a different.
It was a different party.
Yeah. They were. You had different stripes of Democrats. You had your Skip Jackson wing that were strong on defense, and then you had your more liberal Democrats who were more into social programs and stuff like that. Now it seems like a big chunk of them are, either socialists or very close to being socialists.
Right. And that's the argument they're having. That's why this debate is just tearing everybody up on there, because I got too much crap goes off everywhere here. And it's just all, it's life, my office is in my studio is in my house. So, and I've got a house that lives, but yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate to learn. And I think anybody out there that sees this in the replay or that's watching it now, if you don't have a copy, just go to Hillsdale. They'll send you a copy. And it's, you forget what's in there, you forget what it says, and you have to go back and read it, and you're going, wow, I forgot that was there,
One of the points I wanted to make, how the Democrats do an in around the Constitution is, you saw this during the Clinton administration and the Obama administration, where they will pack the judicial courts with liberals, because then they start legislating from the bench, which is not their business. They are supposed to work on law. That's the
justice is blind is what it's supposed to be.
That branch is separate but equal to the legislative branch and then the executive branch. They are 3 separate co-equal branches.
Right.
And the Democrats, they always, you think they're dumb, but they're pretty smart. They're always coming up with ways of how to get what they want. They always say, okay, that's why I talked about, we had this initiative on the last election about how the structure of the reapportioning and redistricting of district boundaries for our congressmen, and our state representatives and state senators. And how since 1980 the Democrat controlled state Supreme Court has been siding with the Democrats on their maps. And that's one of the things that always frustrated me, is how the Democrats would And this goes back to electing Democrat governors, Governor Lamb, Governor Romer.
Yeah,
They're the ones who put those people on the bench,
right.
and
I remember Governor Lamb, believe it or not.
uh, that's why the state really started to go downhill back in the 70s. And
Yeah,
even Governor Lamb is like, he's going, "Oh my God, I really screwed up the state." You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Yep. And Governor Romer, he's from Holly, Colorado, which is near the Kansas border down southeast Colorado. And I went to Holly when I went down there to go fishing. There's a hamburger joint that I went in there called Porky's Parlor that I
Uh,
went in.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. And,
It's the and what happens is when the Republicans are in charge, or the Democrats are in charge of for a long period of time, they're able to, as you say, pack the courts. And we're not talking the Supreme Court. That's the final answer. Everything people think, well, the Supreme Court's going to be the one that decides all this. No, they will if it gets there. But
yeah,
oft times people just say, I can't do it, and that's
no,
it. And it never gets past the local courts or the district courts, the
right.
state courts, because it's got to go through all the different courts in the state
Yeah.
and go to the state Supreme Court, and then it's got to be started over all over again in the U.S. District Courts or
Right.
U.S. Court of Appeals, for whatever district you live in.
That's
And
right.
that's a 3-judge panel, usually 3 or 5. I can't remember
Yeah.
now.
So,
I think it depends on the district too.
right.
Some states it's always an unequal number, so that you're going to have a majority one way or the other.
Right.
And which is the way it should be.
Mm.
And this thing of wanting to, somebody said, one of them said we need to increase the number of people in the Supreme Court. We got 9 already.
Yeah.
And
well,
they
that's
can't.
what Roosevelt tried to do back
Yeah.
during the Depression.
During the Depression. Yeah, they're wanting to take it up to 15. I think we've had it up to 11,
I don't know, but I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, I think 11 was the highest they've ever done, and they cut back. I don't know if it was Kennedy or Johnson cut it back to just 9. Or it might have even been Eisenhower. I can't remember. Or actually, it may have been before that, because I'd have to look at, like you, I'd have to look it up, but I think we've had as many as 11 justices on the Supreme Court.
I think how the Supreme Court grew was it's also based upon, I think, by population, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know how they make that
Yeah,
decision.
because I think originally it was 3 or 5 judge panel starting back at the founding.
Yeah,
because John Jay is the one that you recognize the most, because he was the one that was the deciding factor in a lot of cases back in the early days.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was just going to look that up real quick, because let's see how U.S. Supreme Court. There we go.
Can you count that?
Okay. Yeah, let's see if I can find out. Let's see. Adopt a manifest. Yeah. Supreme Court of the United States. Stacking the Supreme Court. Let's see. The history.com might actually have something. The court is around 145 years old before it got its permanent home of its own. There haven't always been 9 justices. The U.S. Constitution establishes the Supreme Court left it to Congress to decide how many justices should make up the court. The Judiciary Act of 1789 set the number at 6.
Okay.
Chief Justice and 5 associates.
Oh, okay.
In 1807, Congress increased the size to the justices to 7. In 1837, the number was bumped up to 9. In In 1863, it rose to 10. In 1866, Congress passed the Judicial Circuits Act, which shrank the number of justices back to 7 and
Oh.
prevented Andrew Johnson from appointing anyone new to the court.
Ah, okay.
Gee, you think? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. 3 years later, in 1869, Congress raised the number of justices to 9, where it has stood ever since. In 1937, in an effort to create more friendly to the New Deal programs, President Roosevelt attempted to convince Congress to pass legislation to allow new justices to be added to the court for a total number of 15, which is exactly what they're trying, the same number they're working for now.
Yep.
For every justice who is over 70, for every justice over 70 who opted not to retire, Congress didn't go for FDR's plans. Okay, so they wanted to, increase the number because of all the justices over 70,
Right.
and so I was wrong there. I was wrong, but it and I knew it'd been a long time ago, but it was up to 10,
Right.
but for some reason I thought 11, but
Yeah.
but anyway, but it hasn't been that way since before our time, at least.
Right.
I mean, as old as I might be, I don't remember when there were 10 justices.
Well, I think this format is working pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think this will work out because now I get bring in political activists and possibly candidates to the show, and we get make it a really lively show, I think.
Yeah. This StreamYard works real well, and the other thing is Art. That you can fire up vMix and click external before you start StreamYards, and then you have to go over and select your vMix camera, and that should pick up your volume. And you may have to select whatever you use for a mixer, or whatever microphone you have.
Right.
That's why you see my background and all this stuff here.
I'm running this. Going to ask you about.
I'm running it through vMix.
Okay.
I just open up vMix, and I have this whole setup here. This is Art's Place Studio. I set this up just for your show.
Okay,
because
great.
Each one of the shows I go to have different limitations and or different things, and so I set this up, and all I did was fire up my vMix, and I reached over and it's right next to the go live button.
Right.
Let's see, it's right next to the stream button.
Right.
And so, well, I got to get back to where I was at. There we go. Anyways, it's right next to the stream button. So it's called external, and then all you got to do is, and that there's a test thing that you can try it out to make sure your camera's working and your sound and all that.
Oh, cool.
So inside of StreamYard, there's a test channel that you can set up. It doesn't go live or anything.
Oh, okay.
And, so that's how I set it all up.
This turned out pretty good for my first time using this. And I think for Art's Place, it's going to be a great addition to show. I don't mind the watermark up in the corner.
It doesn't hurt,
I mean, they gotta get their advertising in, and this.
Well, yeah, and if at some point you decide you want to improve upon it, they do offer a lot more than just removing that. I mean, for the money, and that right there.
Yeah, I have to remember. Hey, it's like looking.
It's always opposite of what you're looking at. Yeah, I do this, and 9 times out of 10. So, like, if I want to point to you, I have to point that way.
Yeah, that
that way for me, but for you, it would be that way.
Yeah, that way. Yeah.
Yeah. See, we can do it like a
high five.
High
there
five.
We go.
There we
go.
Fist bump. There we go. Well, anyways. But I mean, StreamYard is probably, and it's stable.
Yeah, it is
so stable. So,
but
Yeah, this has been a great show, Art. I think you
Well,
did good
thank
on
you.
this.
Not very many people watching, but I think we'll get used to this, and I think this is going to go places. And I
Oh
don't know
yeah,
if you caught my show last night. Paul did a
I did.
wonderful job.
I did catch part of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
See, I had Friday night. I didn't sleep. I was up until
yeah,
early
I heard
Saturday
about.
morning, and well, you got on just after you took my place on Rodney's show yesterday.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. I remember that.
And so I went in there and laid down. Of course, I'd ate that Vegemite. And, that's another thing. I am so glad to see that Rodney is in here because a couple of the guys were asking, had we heard from him? So, Rodney, I'm glad to see you that you survived the Vegemite. So I can tell everybody that he survived the Vegemite.
And Mason Kaiser, he comes in right as we're wrapping up.
Yeah, you're late right at the end, man. But
Mason, you got to come in early. You're an hour late.
yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. So this gives me. Oh, I've got so many ideas because I'm pretty politically connected here
Yeah.
in Colorado that I could have access to, activists and former senators, former congressmen.
Right.
Them on the show. It'd be great if I could get Tom Tancredo on.
Yeah. Yes.
We could do a whole flipping show with him on.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I'll get him on. I've got friends that are in broadcasting. They won't come on because this is free. Why give away something that you could make money with? So,
Well, yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah. I mean, but in some ways, this is starting to become the new broadcasting. This is where the new, I don't know if you've noticed, and that's what's sad about some of the problems with YouTube is they're turning it into another news medium. And
right.
because Fox News, CNN, all this stuff that was going on yesterday with the El Paso shooting, and then early this morning with the Ohio shooting.
Yeah.
And again, my heart goes out to those families, and they are in my prayers. But all of that was being streamed live by CNN and Fox News and the local news media right here on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have their app anymore. You can watch them on YouTube. You don't even have to turn on the TV, which I don't.
Yeah.
Except to watch. I got movies running for Judy for Idiot. Yeah, Rodney. It's a terrible, and I just, man, that's going to hurt a lot of the conservatives that are gun supporters and stuff. And that 223 that the guy used in Ohio is a favorite of assassins. And actually the 223 is actually the civilian version of an M16.
Yeah, that's right.
Same round,
Mhm.
and
to be a little technical, the military version is 5.56.
5.56. Yeah, that's right. It is the 5.56.
Slightly different than the 223.
Wait a minute. Maybe I'm thinking the 243 is the 5.56.
No,
243 is the 7mm, right?
6mm.
6mm. That's right. 6. That's right. Yeah. Because 7mm is the Magnum, so 6mm. Yeah. I have 243, so you're right. It's the 5.56, which is the NATO round.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I thank you for being in, as always, being my co-host. I think we had a good start on this Streamlabs.
Yeah.
I think this could be a permanent
StreamYard.
StreamYard. I mean, Streamlabs. Yeah.
It's one of them streams. Something.
One of them streams, just
the
don't.
duck place.
All right. Well, let's call her a day, and I will see you later tonight
Yes, I will be on Mel's show tonight.
at 7:45 Central.
Yes, which is 6:45 your time and 8:45 on the East Coast.
6:45 here Mountain.
Yeah, 6:45 Mountain.
5:45
Yeah.
Pacific. All right. Well, thank you everybody for jumping in, and we will see you next week. And God bless. Bye
All
bye.
right. Y'all take care.